Piano! No! Alex!
Sulla comanda di Pogacar, Pogba, rete! Un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium!
Welcome all to Turin Giants episode 272, talking about the Coppa game against Cagliari. This is Zach here stepping in for Kevin and Farhad, who unfortunately are not able to join us today, but I'm joined with our good friend Frederick. Frederick, how you doing?
Hi, Zach. Thanks. I'm doing fairly well considering the results. So thanks for the invite, by the way.
Yeah, it's I keep saying it. Maybe I'm a broken record at this point, but it's a lot more fun to talk about a win, and it's been quite some time since we've had such an emphatic one as we saw today. So we're really excited to get into it. A couple things before we jump into the match. Housekeeping. You can check out some merch at turngiants.com. Follow us on all the socials at Turin Giants. We're particularly active in Instagram, so please join us there and continue the conversation that from this episode on that platform. And with that, let's have Dusan kick us off.
Buongiorno, 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 buongiorno. Come ha detto lei, buongiorno, buongiorno.
Alrighty, I think the first thing, Frederick, we got to talk about is the starting lineup, because we got thrown a little bit of a curveball, as they say here in the States, with Locatelli at center back, McKennie at fullback. You had Coop Miners in a deeper position, and then Yildiz at the 10. What was your reaction when you saw that lineup?
I was basically baffled. And to be honest, in all honesty, I feared the worst because having Loca as a center back, not to put Loca down or anything, but I didn't feel that it was his position or a position he's familiar with. McKennie also in a defensive role, which I don't mind per se, but yeah, I was shocked. It was good to see that Mota took some chances and some risks, but when I saw the lineup, it was a bit of a shock. So I hope for the best, but I feared for the worst, to be honest.
You know, with Locatelli, I don't know. He's 6'1". You know he loves to tackle people. A part of me kind of thinks, as he gets older, maybe he would transition to a center back role. I was kind of curious to see how that would work today, especially with his passing range and whether he would kind of dial back the years and look like a younger Bonucci, kind of in that center back role, spraying passes across the pitch. And I guess we saw a little bit of that today, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did. Apart from the very first few minutes, where I think Luka made a big error, in my opinion, defensively. But apart from that, he did very well. And the thing which I feared the most, was that we didn't have enough creativity in our center midfield by moving Luka to the back. So I was a bit fearful about that, but in the end, it all turned out pretty okay. So credits where credits due. I think Mota made some good changes. He took some chances, and well, considering the result, I think they paid off.
Yeah, we'll touch on some of those other changes as we get into the match. But I guess we mentioned Bonucci, and they flashed a quick picture of him. He was at the game today. What was your reaction to seeing him at the game?
It was a weird sight to behold, especially since last week he gave that famous Allegri interview. I think we touched on that in the previous podcast where I was invited to. But hey, I think we should have him every game now. I think he's going to be our lucky charm or something, because if he shows up every time and we keep putting these performances in, then we should get him back his infamous what was it that he was sitting on? I think it was the game versus Porto. I can't remember that he was sitting in the bleachers with the president and the managerial staff. So give him a special seat in the house. He's our new lucky charm.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's a controversial take. Bonucci, the new lucky charm of Juventus. But getting into the game, I think as awesome as it was, this was not the type of game or the type of style of game that we would see in Serie A, in my opinion. Cagliari seemed to really be playing more of an open game, more of a mid block than a low block, which gave us a lot of space and it made it an enjoyable game at the end of the day. But I mean, did you get the feeling that this was more of a Coppa game where they were having fun than more of a hard nosed Serie A game that we've seen when we played them or some of the other teams at the bottom of the table that set in deep against us?
Well, I tend to agree with you there. I don't think that this is a game that holds much weight because if we take a closer look or we take things into perspective, this was a weak Cagliari side with a lot of key players for them missing. And like you said, they played an open game of football with that mid block, which wasn't really a block because you could see that they were pretty sloppy in their build-up, which gave us a lot of room, as we discussed already, also with their wing backs moving forward and such. But I read a couple of comments online saying, "Oh, we're so back, baby," and a lot of euphoria. But I think we need to put it into perspective. We weren't hopeless as a team before this game, and we sure as hell are no superstars now. So I mean, let's curb the enthusiasm a bit. We'll take this game for what it was. It was a good game. We played with a bit more intensity. We got a lot more freedom from the opposition side than we're used to, and we basically took advantage of the chances we had. And I think it's a good step forward. But we'll have to confirm. I think the games against Monza and Fiorentina coming up before the New Year's break are fairly critical for us. Also, from a mental place, I think this is a good thing mentally to pick up with a decent win with nice figures, nice goals, and a good overall performance. But we have to take it a step further and have to take it a notch up. I think.
Well, let's break down that performance we saw today a little bit more. Starting with that first 20 to 25 minutes, it was really kind of an ugly period of football from a Juventus perspective, wasn't it?
Well, it was basically the same Juventus football or style of football that we saw in the previous games, and the game of Valencia sprung to mind because that was pretty much identical. Especially the first few minutes, we seemed to struggle off the ball, position wise. We had Cagliari who played. We sort of adapted a bit of that high blocking the first few minutes, which made it really difficult for us. Uh, but yeah, the first 20 minutes were, in a nutshell, awful. I think we couldn't find our identity, our positions. We struggled with ourselves more than we struggled with Cagliari, which gave me goosebumps, but in a negative way, to be honest. So I'm pretty glad that we succeeded in getting that late goal at the end of the first half. And you could feel the tension flowing away as well. And that was the feeling that I didn't get in the previous games. There was always that bit of tension and the question, oh, are we going to fumble it or not? And how are we going to handle this? But today you could feel the tension easing away, and you could see that on the pitch clearly.
Yeah, I think after the first 25 minutes, even before we got to the goal, that Juventus started to really settle into the game and start dominating. I mean, we had a really good series of attacks about the 25-minute mark. You had the Savona, he just wasted Conceição's cross in the 27th minute, Conceição's curler in the 28th. Mbangula had a great chance in the 34th. Conceição's beautiful shot on goals in the 36th and so on. So it seemed like the chances started to come. The team sort of settled into this unconventional formation and started to play really well off each other. And that brings us to the goal um, about the 45-minute mark. Now, you and I were texting throughout the game that people like Dushan and Coop to some extent were making these forward runs and nobody was sending them the ball, instead taking the safe option, right? I think it was awesome to see that in this goal. It was all started off by Coop Miners finding a beautiful long ball um, that to Mbangula, I believe it was, who then fed it to Yildiz and ultimately to Dushan, that unlocked the defense and really gave us this chance.
Yeah, true. And it was I think we were texting like 2 to 3 minutes before the goal, if I'm not mistaken. And it was nice to see because we were talking about they have to verticalize, they have to try those risky passes more because they will pay off, especially against a side that was defending the way that Cagliari were defending. So it was very good to see, especially from Koopmeiners, who got a lot of hate recent weeks. Whether or not it was deserved, I'll leave in the middle. But he was at the basis of this first goal, so it was good to see him trying that risky pass. Also, credits to Mbangula and Yildiz for the way that they did, and then see Vlahovic score a typical, in my opinion, Filippo Inzaghi goal, which was awesome to see because that's what I've been missing from Dusan are those goals, the typical striker poacher goals, and this was one of them. I mean, and I was happy to see that. So it was all these things that we were mentioning through text that were missing that they basically delivered in a matter of 2 to 3 minutes. So it was awesome to see.
They heard us. They heard us, and the message was well received. Coop Miners, while we talk about him, 46 for 46 on passes, 100% passing accuracy throughout the game. I think he was a little bit lost in his positioning in that first little 10 to 20-minute mark, but he really stepped up through, or at least grew into the game and was not only integral in that first goal, but dare we jump ahead to the second? Because that free kick from way out there was a thing of beauty, wasn't it?
It was amazing, and I think we've been deprived of a free kick goal, a direct free kick goal from our Juve team for a long time. I think the last one was Vlahovic.
Yeah, he's given us a few. I don't think we've had any yet this year, though.
No.
So it was a long time coming.
Yeah, it was a long time coming, and the way that he took the shot, I mean, you have to be honest here. It was technically perfect, and for a player who was struggling with his confidence, because let's be honest, you could see the last games that he was struggling with his confidence and with taking risks and being the player that he actually is, and then stepping up, taking this free kick and delivering in such a fantastic manner. That's gonna do wonders for him. And you could see him grow afterwards. I mean, he was growing into the game, like you said, but after that free kick, well, it was like we saw two different players on the pitch. He was more active. He didn't hide as much. He kept coming forwards, asking for the ball, asking for delivery. A couple of cheeky passes as well. So I think that's what we expect from Koopmeiners, and that's the reason why we bought him as well. And seeing him deliver on a night like this after so many negative reviews, I think that's going to be a relief for him. It's going to help him on his way into easing into the Juventus squad as a valid team member. So yeah, kudos to him.
We commented on a few episodes, but I honestly think that the deeper position benefits him because in my opinion, it gets him on the ball facing the opposing goal more so than in the 10 spot where he's facing backwards. What was your take on him in a deeper role today?
Well, I have to agree with you. I think we had a difference in opinion in the beginning of the season or the beginning of the podcast, where I felt that he would be better suited in another position, a bit more ahead of the defensive line. But as he proved today that he has those qualities to do the same up front. But I have to navigate slowly because I think he performs or he can perform wherever, but he needs a couple of players with a certain identity next to him. And it was the same at Atalanta. If he had some players that made those deep runs up front, you could see that he was the perfect player to hand over those assists or to basically act as an encursor throughout that midfield. And I think that today, with Yildiz playing a bit more ahead of him, it was for him a bit of a relief, to be honest. Or at least that's my personal take on it.
Yeah, taking a step back, I think there was two things just from a tactical sense that Juventus did today that we haven't seen much of since maybe the Como game really to start the year. The first was it's a priority is the word I'll use of building the play through the middle of the pitch or through the channel, not just immediately going to the wingers and hugging the line like we've seen in Serie A. That's the first thing. And the second thing is using the long ball to guys like Yildiz or Mbangula cutting in to then drop it to an onrushing midfielder who could then progress the ball up the pitch. These seem to be, to me, two concerted priorities of the team going into this game. Did you notice that? And do you think they were effective?
Well, yeah, I think they were because people on the podcast who are listening to us don't know it, but I think we talked a lot through text saying they need to verticalize, they need to play more through the middle because, well, like you said, hugging the line was just ineffective as a whole. It also worked against us defensively because with always hugging those lines, you leave a lot of space in the middle, which made us vulnerable for counterattacks. So we killed two birds with one stone today by playing more through the middle. We were more effective in an offensively, sorry, but we were also more secure as a defensive side. So to me, it was a win-win situation, and I think it was time for Mota to realize that. And you could basically see that he also instructed his players to do so because we didn't see that during the last games and seeing them moving forward throughout the middle and trying those risky balls, those vertical passes. It paid off. So it wasn't a fluke. It was intentional, and I'm glad that they tried and did that because it benefited us and it made us stronger by about 25% as a team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that those two things will benefit us when we transition back to Serie A games. We said on the front end that this was not sort of the regular game that Juventus will face in Serie A. Cagliari, when we play them, would be much deeper, like your Venezia, your Parma, and your other teams towards the bottom of the table. But if we're able to play effectively through the middle, it'll give us more attacking options against a low block team. If we're able to play a little bit more direct and then feed oncoming midfielders, that'll help relieve pressure from teams on the flip side who are doing a high press against us, as well as help in transition against teams when we catch them out. I think both of those were positive signs for me, and I'd like to see us continue to utilize both of those tactics moving forward. Alrighty.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but what I
Yeah.
take away mostly from this game is the last couple of games I criticized Mota for being a bit too stubborn in the sense of formation wise. He held on to that 4-3-1-2 formation at all times. But today I saw a glimpse of a basic 4-3-3. And it was pretty obvious in the second half, in my opinion, when you saw that Cagliari were trying to push us back is maybe a big step, but they were trying to up the pressure, and we slowly graduated in that flat 4-3-3, which made us a bit more flexible in an attacking position, but also kept that defensive sturdiness. So I'm glad to see Mota, looking in the mirror and saying, okay, maybe I need to handle a situation on a different note, and maybe I have to adapt to the team we're playing against. And that gives me positive vibes because if he kept on playing with the same stubbornness formation wise and hugging the line, that would have led us into trouble already today, I think. So I completely agree with you on that.
So there's just kind of a tale of three games. The first game being the first 20-25 minutes where we were quite poor. The second aspect is from about 25 minutes to what I'd say is about the 66-minute mark, where we score two goals. Coop really influences the game. But at the 66-minute mark, it changes. Coop has now been subbed off. Gatti's on in his place. Yildiz has been subbed off. Nico Gonzalez is in his place. And then we see a Nico Gonzalez that we haven't seen in a long time. I think since the PSV game where he had a goal and assist. He seemed to come in and immediately have a positive impact, didn't he?
It was amazing to see. Also, the freedom he brought. I'm not sure how to put this in proper English, but he played with sense of freedom, as in he was there. He was working those risky balls as well, but he played as if he'd been part of the team for a long time, in a sense that he didn't feel awkward, because that's something that you would expect from a player that's been out as long as he has. But that wasn't the case. And you could feel immediately, or at least I did, in the PSV game, that he was a player that was going to bring something to our team. He was an added value. You could see that instantly. And now having him back after such a long period and having him perform, albeit against a weak Cagliari side, let's be honest, and it was only, I don't know, I think he played about 25 minutes, but it was a good 25 minutes. So that gives me confidence for the remainder of the season. And I hope, and I'm knocking on wood here, that he keeps his fitness level up and he doesn't get injured again. Because, well, you can see if you can rotate more players and you can bring more subs in with with a lot more quality, then you have an ability to turn games around or get that third and fourth goal that you desperately need in certain games. So
You just saw him. He seems so naturally to shift into that 10 role. He kind of played in that free role behind the striker, really effectively linking up with different players, making good runs, winning a couple head balls. Obviously, he's well known to be good in the air, but he wins the ball, delivers the ball out wide to Conceição, who was just an absolute menace to Cagliari all game, who makes a great cut in and scores 3-0 in the 80th minute. And I think with the contributions he had all game, it was a goal well deserved, don't you think?
it was amazing. And once again, and like the same things that I said for Coop apply to him as well. To be able to come in after such a long period, leave your mark on the game and make it. Let's be honest, was a fantastic goal. A lot of lucidity. You could see him in the replay looking at the keeper before he hits the ball, see that he's out of his goal, and making that chip goal. Amazing to see. Good for us. And yeah, Conceição, I mean, it would be the nicest Christmas present for all us Juventini if we can get that, if we can finalize this transfer before Christmas, which I'm pretty confident will happen in January, to be honest, if not earlier.
Well, I think everybody, all fans of Juventus, want to see that across the line. And frankly, I don't care when it happens as long as it's before the end of his loan, right? So we'll keep an eye on that. Immediately after that third goal, okay, Conceição is subbed off with Dusan and Weah, and Adzic are subbed on. What we saw about 11 minutes of Adzic, who of course is a new young signing for Juventus, a person we haven't seen much of. He's been injured. I think there was some predictable adaptation, situations where he's getting used to first team training as a young guy. But we get to see him for about 11, 12 minutes. What do you think of Adjic's play today?
It wasn't a memorable performance as such because, as opposed to Nico, he didn't score or whatever, but you can see the quality oozing off of him. I mean, the way he handles the ball with such ease and such finesse, it really gives me hope. Now, it's not that a player comes on and he's regarded as a talent and he plays a couple of minutes well that you can automatically say, okay, this is one for the future. But he has all the things that he needs to make it. Now, the only thing that concerns me is his fitness level because I think since he joined us, he's been injured like 3 times already, which is a lot. But you need to take into account that it's pretty heavy preseason training that he's had. He's still young, comes from a different environment, so you need to take all these things into consideration. But you can see he just oozes quality and ease. He does everything effortlessly. So I'm hoping he gets more minutes in and that he's able to adapt and build on his fitness level. And I think the same for Nico Gonzalez. That'll be a player that'll come in handy for us the second half of the season. In all honesty,
Yeah, I think. Look, if Locatelli center back is in the future, then and Coop Miners, is playing deeper, then having more rotation up and then maybe that attacking midfielder role would be great. And I'd like to see a little bit more of him to see what he can offer. But I agree with you; he does seem pretty comfortable on the ball with good vision and had the confidence to step up and take that free kick today. So, wanted to just give Odzic a little bit of airtime, but we have to just take a second for the fourth goal from Nico Gonzalez in the 89th minute. Taram wins the ball, gives it to Weah, who gives it to Nico Gonzalez. What, 30 meters on in our half, and then he runs the
yeah,
full pitch. Right, he
yeah,
runs the full pitch
yeah.
with that beautiful delivery. Did you think he was going to run out of gas, or did you think he was going to go all the way?
I honestly thought he was going to run out of gas because you have to take into consideration he's been injured for a long time. He didn't train as much with the team. I know he's been training for 3 weeks, but separately for building up his rhythm. And but that's not the same as game rhythm. A game rhythm, you can only obtain game rhythm by playing games. So I thought he was gonna. I thought he was gonna pass out, to be honest, but he did that run and he was so lucid. I mean, you could see him do that 35 meter run and still have the lucidity to look at the keeper and in a what was it, like 3 milliseconds, see where the keeper's positioned, see what's the best outcome or what shot he needs to take, and then chips it with so much feeling, with so much finesse, because you have to take into account he's tired. He's run 35 meters. He has to look at where the position of the defender is. He has to look at the position of the goalkeeper and still be lucid enough and have that class touch to deliver such a ball. Well, in my opinion, if you can do that, then there's no limit to what you can achieve uh, on a number 10 position or as a shadow striker, whatever position he needs to play in. It was amazing to see. And also, for me personally, that fourth goal was something that I've been missing this season because we haven't seen that many wins, let alone that many defined wins. And seeing a team being up 2-0, still trying to press, still trying to score, still putting effort in, still going, through the middle, because we could have taken the easy route and we could have said, okay, we're going to hug the line again. We're gonna play this game out. We're gonna do it the easy way. We're gonna do 150 back passes in 60 seconds, like we used to do, which is basically the easy route. But they kept on delivering. They kept on pushing. They kept on trying to play that ball through the middle, and you could see that players were just more comfortable. That was my opinion. You could see the players, all of them, having much more comfort on the ball, having got rid of got rid of that stress level that we felt in other games. And that for me was like an epiphany almost. That was basically a sign that we're on the right path, but we have to keep this up.
Yeah, we want to see the patterns that we saw today in a fairly open game that maybe our opponent considered meaningless in Serie A, and so I think both of us are kind of clamoring to see that translate over to against Monza, Fiorentina, and so forth. I almost can't help myself. So that Nico Gonzalez fourth goal, is easily contrasted with Duchan's one-on-one with the goalkeeper effort, 10 minutes prior, which has to be one of maybe the worst one-on-one with the goalie efforts I've ever seen somebody take.
Classic Dusan.
I mean, he got his goals, so I don't feel like we're dogging on him too much, but I mean, he one-on-one with the keeper. There was not that calm, there was not that composure that Nico had. It seemed all a bit frantic, and then he falls over to the left, shooting it wide. And I think the defender had it covered anyways. That play, when you're up 3-0, you can kind of laugh at it, but it to some extent, I think, encapsulates our struggles to score, or to convert good chances over the course of this season.
Well, that's my main issue with Vlahovic. I know that a lot of people criticize him, and to be honest, he's what 12 goals in, I think. If
Yeah,
we if
I
we
think so.
combine it.
With in 2 assists.
Yeah, I mean, those are not bad statistics. But if you look at how he plays and the stress level with which he plays, that's something that deeply bothers me. Because also, if he scores, he's always mad. Like he doesn't celebrate in a humorous fashion or in a hey, I'm happy I scored. Yeah, let's go. He's always looking for that controversy, like with Venezia. We saw that as well with the defender. Like he was mouthing off and this and that. He's always agitated, and that's something that he needs to work on. And I've been saying this since the moment he arrived, but he's not evolving in that way. And like you said, we can laugh now. We're 3-0 ahead against Cagliari in a Coppa Italia game. But if he gets this chance in a, I don't know, quarterfinal Champions League game where you maybe get one or two decent opportunities, well, then it's game over for us. So he
Yeah,
needs
there's no
to
laughing. There's no laughing then. Yeah.
no, he needs to control his emotions. I think the moment he does that, we have a solid, good striker, a potential world class striker. But the moment his emotion and his head takes over, then it translates on what he does on the pitch, and we could see it today. I mean, this was an amazing opportunity to score your brace to steal the game, and he goes and does this frantic movement, doesn't know what to do, gets stressed. And as he was laying there on the pitch, after that he fell over trying to score, you could see you could see him questioning himself. You could see him asking himself in his mind, for what the f did I just do? And that's something he needs to work on. That's just a mental issue. I know he's not the most technical player, but we could see from the goal that he scored at the end of the first half that he has those number 9 instinct, those poacher instincts. But his head gets in his way. To be honest, he needs to work on that. That's my semi-professional opinion of somebody who has his fair share of mental issues, but that's another discussion. But I think he needs to work on that.
Yeah, I think we've talked about how sometimes seems to get in his own head, but at the same time, I think he also maybe that's also what motivates him. I took the interpretation in the Bologna game that that battle with the defender was a motivating factor. I mean, when he made that run at the end of the game, all the way down the pitch to beat the defender, to get the space, to feed the assist to Mbangula, that to me seemed to be driven exclusively with whatever anger, strife, frustration, or whatever it was that he was feeling. And he seems to want to channel that into trying to get a result. And we definitely see situations like that 1v1 today where he totally makes a meal of it. But it also seems to be a motivating factor to him, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's the devil and the angel on his shoulder. That's constantly, and that's also the main gripe because of that he lacks in consistency. And if I can make the analogy with Trezeguet, Trezeguet was always there. Like we talked about this as well. I think you and I. You didn't see him for a whole game. He barely touched a ball, and then there's Trezeguet. He scores. Okay, thanks. So that was his consistency. He was always there. If there was a chance to be taken, you could be sure that Trezeguet was there to take it. I missed that a bit. It was the same with Higuain as well. Higuain is a bit underrated, I think, by us as Juve fans. But he was always in the right place at the right moment, kept a cool head, and slotted the balls home. And Vlahovic needs to grow. That being said, I still think, because of his contract issues, that it's his last season with us, which I wouldn't lose any sleep over it, but I have a feeling that we haven't seen the real Vlahovic yet. And I really want to see the real Vlahovic, like calm, composed, and with the ability to exploit his talents and the benefits that he has in every game, not just the Coppa Italia game, but also in the Serie A, also in the Champions League, with a consistent level of goal scoring and poaching. But I don't know if we'll get to see that.
Yeah, we maybe not, but this team is still clearly growing, or at least in transition. We still have a long season to go, in the Coppa, in the Champions League, and we're not even 50% of the way through Serie A. So there's still a lot of opportunities for Dusan, I think, to hit a good run of form for us. And I think we're going to both hold out. All of us are holding out hope that he realizes that over the course of this season. I think we've covered most of the game, Frederick. I want to just hit you with a couple, players and get your kind of snapshot reaction to how they played today. We've covered several already, so we're not gonna do everybody. We're just gonna do a few more. Just real quick, what are your thoughts on their performances? I'm gonna start off with Di Gregorio with those 2 saves, one in the first minute and one in the 91st minute.
Yeah, very solid yet again. He was solid against City. I think he was solid against Venezia as well, but he got some criticism from the fans. A lot of people think that Perin is the better goalkeeper, but he's looking solid, and I think every game he's stepping up a notch. So I think it's going to be a goalkeeper that's going to bring us a lot of good moments, but he needs to keep that focus.
Yeah, a beautiful one-on-one save against City. Obviously, the 2 today I thought were fantastic saves for opportunities that should have honestly been goals. Next player, McKennie at left back. What was your take on his performance?
I thought he played very well, to be honest. I'm a sucker, McKennie wise. I always thought that McKennie brought in something fresh, something new. He always tries to deliver. It's like he's not a world class player. Let's be honest. He's a very good player, not a world class player, but he always puts in his effort. And today he did that effortlessly. But let me, counter that a bit, because Cagliari today offensively, I don't think that anybody would get into any trouble today playing against the formation that Cagliari had on the pitch today. But I thought it was a decent performance.
Still 51 of 55 passing, 93%. That's actually pretty high for McKennie, who's not the highest passing accuracy midfielders. 6 recoveries on the defensive end, and a couple clearances to boot. I think he was very solid, regardless of the level of competition, playing out of position, kind of, trying to be our Cambiasso for the game, right? I thought I agree with you on your analysis and your sort of synopsis of his play. Next, Yield is in the 10. A lot of people have been asking for it. What was your take of his performance at that position?
I thought it was one of his worst performances of the season, to be honest, but I don't necessarily think that it has to do with his position. I think it was just an off night, and maybe it was just me, but I saw a tired Yildiz. When you see him play other games, you could see him trying to recuperate the ball, trying to find that space, come in from the left, cut into the middle, trying to find the open man, whatever. And today, I think he was lacking a bit in energy, or at least that was my perspective of it. But I think if you can, what I think Thiago Motta needs to do is make Yildiz somebody who can play on the left flank, which we've seen that he can do, but also try to school him a bit to take over that number 10 position if need be, because we now have options. You have Nico, if he can stay fit, but I'd like to see them alternate a bit. I mean, who's to say that you can't start with Nico and Yildiz in the starting lineup and have them switch sides effortlessly? I think that's something that we can expect. I think that's something that Motta would want, because we saw it with Bologna as well. But that needs time. But I think the performance today was not the best. But kudos to him for the assist, because he basically broke the game wide open. So I don't think it's a definitive yes or no from me, but I saw a tired Yildiz today.
Yeah, I think your thought of starting Nico and Yildiz makes sense. I think them alternating out wide, even some of them going out right and Chico, shifting into is way more seamless than having Coop Miners be there and then shift out wide. I think we've all agreed that when Coop Miners has shifted out to the winger position, to allow Yildiz to move infield, it's been you know unsuccessful. Like let's just go to it. It's not been good. So I think having Nico in that position really gives a lot of flexibility for the players to rotate with themselves. And I think I don't know if Yildiz looked tired to me. Not saying he did or didn't. I think the playing in the middle though requires you to be a little bit quicker on the ball. And there was a couple times where he got on the ball and he was instantly collapsed on by defenders, and that's not something he's used to when he's playing out on the wing. When we deliver a ball in space, gives him a lot more time to collect it than face down a defender. He's
Yep.
almost never going to get that chance in the middle of the pitch.
No, true. And I think what we need to do, first and foremost, I think we need to, Mota needs to say to Coop Miners, look, if you go to the left or to the right, I'm gonna fine you €1,000 every time you do that. We need him in the middle. Don't start with that bullshit like taking over the wing. And he does that from a good perspective, I think. It's instinctive. He tries to help, but it's not helping the team. So I 1,000% agree with you that we need Coop in the middle, and him overlapping the line, the sideline is something that we must avoid at all times.
Alrighty, I'll leave it there. Is there, there's a couple players we didn't talk about. Taram, who I thought had a solid game. Savona, we could break down Locatelli's performance a little bit more. Mbangula, who really demonstrated some soft feet. Is there anyone you want to touch on of the remaining folks who played today?
Chico, please let him sign this evening. I mean, it's unbelievable the pace, the quickness. The only issue I have, to be honest, if we could call it an issue, is that he's in love with the ball a bit too much. There were certain points at the game where I thought, just pass the ball. I mean, you've done your thing, you've made your run, you've basically outsmarted the defender. You have that wide open space to give it, just give it. Apart from that, he's a menace in everything he does. You could feel the value he brings onto the pitch. And with regards to that, I think for me, he was the man of the match.
I was just about to ask you. So you have Chico with his goal and just his chaos throughout the game. You've got Nico Gonzalez with a goal and assist. You've got Coop Miners with his free kick goal and the key pass setting up Dushan's goal. You have Yildiz with the assist and Dushan with the goal. Out of all those guys, you give the man of the match to Chico?
He's our Tasmanian devil, man. I mean, you have to hand it to him. The intensity, the grit, the also the finesse he brings in on that flank and the space he creates. It's orchestrated madness and chaos, and I like that. I like that. I applaud that. And now it's we keep saying it's just the Coppa Italia game against Cagliari, but he would put in the same performance against City. He put in the same performance against, I don't know, Udinese in the Serie A. He's that player that you can count on to put in work, put in effort, and deliver quality wise. So for me, he was absolutely the man of the match.
Well, Thought Mob agrees with you. I don't really buy too much into these ratings, but they have him as the highest in the game, with all of his contributions that we've outlined today. Well, I think we've covered all of it. A really fun game. Juventus tends to show up in these Copa games, and so it's fun to see maybe a different side than we've been seeing in the league, in the Champions League. Score a lot of goals, get the opportunity to see people play in different positions, as well as the return of several players like Odzic and Nico on the pitch. Looking forward, we got Monza on the weekend, Fiorentina after that. So we've got some really cool games coming up. I believe Empoli's our next opponent in the Copa.
Yeah.
So we will look to bring you episodes for all of those games moving forward. Really appreciate, Frederick, you joining me on the episode today. As I
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
as I step in for Farhad and Kevin as host, hopefully temporary host.
You did a bang up job, man. I mean, thank you. It was an honor, and I have to say also to the people, I know that a lot of people appreciate your analysis and the way that you basically explain the whole tactical situation. And once again, I have to say hats off, because I always, whether it be by text or in a podcast, I always enjoy your views on the game and your tactical analysis. And I also tend to agree with you a lot. So kudos to you, man. I mean, you're the Turin Giants added value. You're the Conceição of the team, man.
Well, the check is in the mail. Thank you for that. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Please join us to continue the discussion on our socials. And with that, I'll let you go. Have a lovely day.
I was caught in the middle of a railroad track. Moved around and I knew there was no turning back. My mind raced and I thought, what could I do? And I knew there was no help from you. Sound of the drums beating my heart, the thunder of guns tore me apart. You've been thunderstruck.